How are you? Happy Pesach. Today is the fourth day of the intermediate days, what we call Chol HaMoed, which is holiday light. Passover, as you know, is 7 days in the land of Israel and in the Torah, but in America, in the diaspora, it's 8 days, so we're on the fourth day. Now tonight, Tuesday night, we begin what's called the second days of Pesach, of Passover. The second days start tonight, Tuesday night, and go through Thursday night. So those of you who are not eating chametz as the Torah commands, that extends all the way until Thursday night after nightfall. Now, the second days of Pesach, of Passover, they celebrate a very, very unique and obviously very famous miracle of history, of Jewish history, and that is Kriyat Yam Suf, the splitting of the sea. Now, of course, it's a wild miracle. Now, historically, what happened was the Jewish people left Egypt 7 days ago. The first day of Pesach, the morning they left Egypt and they fled. Pharaoh chased them out. And of course, 3 days later, Pharaoh regretted his decision. So he decided to chase after the Jewish people. What happens is, eventually he catches up with them, and the Jewish people are now stuck between a rock and a hard place. They have Pharaoh behind, and they have in front of them the Sea of Reeds, the Yam Suf, and they have nowhere to go. And the Jewish people start crying out to Hashem. They can't believe it. They're stuck. They don't know what to do. And of course, Hashem, in a very famous rebuttal, basically says, stop kvetching, stop complaining, go do something, walk into the water, tells Moshe, tell the Jewish people to walk. And ultimately, Nachshon ben Aminadav, Nachshon the son of Aminadav, is the brave one. He makes the first move. He walks in and he goes, the water gets up to his neck, and before he knows it, the sea splits and the water parts ways for dry land, and the Jewish people make their way through in great celebration and great miraculous fashion. That is really the celebration of the splitting of the sea. Now, the Talmud, and that is what we celebrate on the seventh day of Passover. Now, the Talmud makes a very, very interesting statement. Now, if we had to compare the miracle or the intensity of the act of splitting the sea to anything, right? There's many, many different things we could compare it to in terms of, the magnitude of what's actually happening. But the Talmud chooses to compare it to something very interesting, and it says as follows. The Talmud says, Kashe zivugin kekriyat yam suf, that zivugin, marriages, relationships, are as intense or as difficult as splitting the sea. Okay, so now I think we could all appreciate that splitting of the sea is, that their relationships are a pretty big deal. They're kind of difficult, but splitting at the sea level, that's like one of the greatest revealed miracles of all of history. So what's the idea over there? So the Talmud teaches, and this is a teaching that comes from Rabbi Aaron of Karlin, lived about 200 years ago. He says something so deep, so powerful. It's going to penetrate your soul and really give a real perspective into splitting of the sea and relationships as follows. It says when the splitting of the sea, this that we know the sea split was not something that happened impromptu at the time the Jewish people got there. It was actually something that the rabbis teach was hardwired into creation, meaning to say that when the Almighty created the world 5,780 years ago, and he created the waters, he instructed the waters. He created the waters on condition. He said, true, your nature is going to be to stick together, to glue together. Water attracts and connects, has a certain magnetism to it. But when the Jewish people show up 2,500 years into history, the condition is that you have to split for them. And the sea said, okay, who are these Jewish people? And it says the Almighty showed them a vision of the Jewish people, of the light unto the nation that's going to spread Hashem's word through history, the nation that is going to be a representative of God throughout history, right? Hashem's chosen people, showed them the vision of this amazing, beautiful, holy people. And the sea took a look at the vision, and the sea said, for such a people, I definitely will go against my nature, and I agree to have this condition built in that I will split for them. Fast forward 2,500 years later, and the Jewish people show up, and the sea doesn't split. Now the question is, what do you mean? It made a condition to split. So what happened? It says when the Jewish people showed up, right, Hashem, the Almighty, turns to the sea and says, okay, we made a condition. The Jewish people are here. Those people that you agreed initially to split for have shown up. And the sea looks and says, wait a second. No. You showed me this vision of this elevated nation, the holiest of nations, God's people. And now, who are you bringing in front of me? You're bringing in front of me who? A bunch of slaves. They just spent 210 years in the most depraved land in all of society. They were no different than their Egyptian counterparts. As the rabbis teach, the Jewish people in the land of Egypt, they served idols. Just like their Egyptian counterparts, they reached tremendously low states of immorality and impurity. In fact, they reached the lowest level, the 49th level of spiritual impurity. The Jewish people were in no pristine state. They were definitely not at least appear to be the great elevated nation that the Jewish people are and should be. And the sea said, that's not fair. The condition was that I'd split for nobility. I'd split for the princes. I'd split for the royal family, for the Jewish people. But these are not the people I agreed to split for. So what happened? It says that when the Jewish people left Egypt, Joseph, who was the ruler of Egypt way back, he was a second in command. As we know, Joseph, the son of Jacob of the 12 tribes, when he passed away, he made a condition, he made a request of his brothers, and he said, when you leave Egypt eventually, whenever that's going to be, please take my bones with you and bury me in the land of Israel. As we know today, Joseph is buried in the land of Israel, in Nablus, in Shechem, which is now Palestinian territory, but ultimately in the land of Israel. Joseph made this request. So the Jewish people, when they left Egypt, they took along a lot of different things with them. One of the things they took along were the bones of Joseph. And it says, King David writes in Tehillim, that when the sea saw, it fled. It says when the sea saw the bones of Joseph, it decided to part. The question is, what changed? The sea didn't want to change. The sea didn't want to split. It said, I did not sign up to split for these people. But when it saw the bones of Joseph, then it agreed to split. The answer is so deep. Joseph represented the prototype of a person that on the surface appears to be one way, but inside is a totally different person. Okay? Whereas, meaning to say that the externals don't necessarily reveal to you what the internal is. Joseph, on the surface level, was the second in command in Egypt. He was an Egyptian ruler. No one knew him as a Jewish person. But we all know, if you read the stories in the Torah, he's the only person referred to as a tzaddik, a righteous person, Yosef a tzaddik. He overcame tremendous challenges and persevered. He overcame tremendous temptations, right? His character was as deep and rich, as pure as ever. So on the surface level, he was an Egyptian king, but inside he was Yosef a tzaddik. Okay, not in a revealed way, but if we know the backstory, he was a tremendous giant of a person. And when the sea saw that, the sea understood that although the Jewish people today look like a nation of slaves and look depraved and appear to be on a low level, the sea understood that deep down in their potential, in their soul, who they could be, that light that shines within is ever present. And when the sea saw that, it recognized that. And the sea reflected on itself as well. If you ever go to the bay or the ocean, you look at it, it looks like an empty body of water. But anyone who knows anything about, right, what lives under the ocean, besides this SpongeBob and SquarePants, the bottom line is, the sea is full of a vast ecosystem of life, of vibrancy, of everything tremendous, and life and potential and everything that's going on there. So the sea understood. True, the Jewish people don't appear to be one way, but deep down I understand there's something special. Now, what does this have to do with relationships? Here's the kicker. Here's the point. It says when a Jewish person is born, Arba'im Yom Kodem Yetzias Avad, 40 days before the person comes into the world, it says that the Talmud teaches that the soul is matched up with your soulmate. Ben Ploni, Labas Ploni, the son of this person to the daughter of this person, these two are going to be soulmates. And what happens? It says, the souls are shown a vision of each other. So Mrs. Ploni, which means in Hebrew, Ploni is a term for John Doe. Okay? So John Doe is shown Jane Doe, and John Doe looks at Jane. John looks at Jane, and John says, wow, what a beautiful woman, such a spiritual soul, so real, so connected, so genuine, so kind, so loving. This is a soul that's going to allow me to really bring out the best. It's going to bring out the best in me. It's going to assist me in reaching my full God-given potential to actualize myself. And Jane looks back at John with such loving eyes and says, wow, that guy John, unbelievable. He's really going to allow me to shine and to grow and become the greatest version of myself. This is my other half, my better half, and seeing the deepest visions of each other. And they're like, of course I'm going to go ahead and get married for such a person. Of course I'm going to be able to give up of myself to be with that other person. Of course I'm going to be able to split my sea for them so they can walk through. And this goes both ways. And that's the beautiful vision. Of course I'll split my sea for them. Of course. And what happens? Fast forward 20 years, 25 years, 30 years sometimes, maybe even more. How you say? Yeah? And they meet. And they take one look at each other and they say, no way! This is not my soulmate! No way! I'm out! This is not what I signed up for. This person is selfish. They can't even put their shoes on right. They don't have a good job. They're not successful. They're not pretty. They're not this. They're not anything I ever dreamed of. This is not my soulmate. And what's the lesson of the sea? What is the lesson of the sea? This is why marriage and splitting the sea is difficult, because when we get stuck in the superficiality, when we get stuck in the externalities of things, then it's impossible to split. But when a person's able to see that into the depths of a person, what their soul is, what their true qualities are, what their good points are, when a person's able to see the depth in another person and see the beauty in them, then they're able to finally split and allow the other person into their lives and truly find the person that will accentuate who they are, that will allow them to truly tap into their true, deep, infinite God-given potential. But that is the difficulty. When you get stuck in externalities, when you're stuck on, this person doesn't have the career I ever dreamed of, this is the person doesn't have the looks I ever dreamed of, this is the person doesn't have the pocketbook or the bank account that I ever dreamed of, this is the person that doesn't have the personality I ever dreamed of, right? And all the externalities that we get caught up on, right? Things that are a little bit important, sometimes very not important, and we miss the main factors that we each of us have the ability to allow the other person to really grow and become the best version of themselves. That's the purpose of marriage, is the purpose of soulmates, that the soul could have a mate so that the soul could shine. When I'm able to do that, then I'm able to split my sea and allow that person in. But until then, it's impossible to part ways and split myself. Now, just as an addendum, this week we also started with the mitzvah. We started with the mitzvah of Sefirat Omer, counting the Omer, which is the day-by-day process of leaving Egypt. We don't just leave Egypt in a flash and then we're good. It takes the miracle happened in a great moment, but we have to do the work. If we want to climb our way to Sinai, if we want to really get out of Egypt, if we really want to experience Exodus in a real way, we can't just step out in one moment and then we're free. We have to take a 49-day journey, a day-by-day journey to get to the mountain. Okay, it doesn't happen overnight. All growth happens in baby steps. So each day of this count of Sfirat Omer, of counting the Omer, is focused. Each week is focused on a different character trait, and each day is a different nuance within that character trait. This week is the first week. We started counting right after the first day of Passover. Okay, today is the 5th day already, but this week focuses on the character trait of Chesed, of kindness, of loving kindness. Now, kindness, as we know it, is, you just give to people, right? You're a nice guy, you give charity, you take care of people, you're helping people. That's kindness. But the rabbis teach, the Chachamim teach, that the root of kindness, the essence of kindness, the fundamental character there is being able to see other people. Okay? Up until we execute on our kindness, we're stuck a lot of times in our own head, we're stuck in our own brain, and we get saturated with self. Kindness is the ability, even before the action, is the ability to see other people, to see others, to believe that it's possible, that the world is a good place, to believe that others are worthy of my kindness, to believe that there's goodness in the world, and that people that everyone is, myself included, that we're all worthy of someone else's kindness. Okay? That's the idea of it, being able to see someone else. And I think that's, again, so apropos into what we're talking about over here in that sense, that I'm able to split my seed to allow another person. And that is the root of kindness. If I want to be a kind, loving, giving person, I have to be able to think about other people. I have to be able to see other people. I have to be able to appreciate other people, see other people's value, see other people's inherent goodness. When I'm able to do that, then I'm able to split my own seed. I'm able to open my own pocketbook and share it with people. I'm able to open my time. I'm able to open my heart. I'm able to open my mind to be able to part and give to other people, to share it with other people. That's the root of kindness. That's the root of splitting your seed. And the last thing is that the 7th day of Passover is celebrating the splitting of the sea, and the 8th day is what's called Acharon Shel Pesach. It's a day connected, it's an extra day of the diaspora that we're connected to the yearning and desire for Mashiach. And I think truly the way to get to Mashiach, truly the way to be able to really bring Hashem's light into this world is by each and every one of us, at least today, started to focus on this character trait of being able to split myself open for other people, to be able to think about other people, to be able to put other people in my life, to have consistently and constantly, especially at a time like this where we're so caught in quarantine, where we're totally focused on self and self-preservation and survival. I think we have to be able to tap into this energy of chesed, to be able to say, who else could I help? How could I be there for other people, even from a distance? So I'm wishing you and your family and all your loved ones a beautiful 2nd days and restful celebration of joy and happiness on this Pesach. Stay safe. I look forward to connecting after Passover, B'ezrat Hashem, more Torah classes, more things, whatever we could do to stay connected. L'chaim, happy Pesach.